Okay, we are recording, and so in our class we got Robert. This is Robert. Robert webcam.
That class.
Robert decided to come in for this interview. So I always start with just asking you to introduce yourself.
Yeah. So my name is Robert. Went to Rankin from 2008, 2010. Internet and web-based technology. So probably a lot different than what you guys are doing now, but still a lot of the same stuff, really. Same core things that you learn for programming. Right after, I guess I could just go into what I've done after it. Right after school, I actually had a job offer before I even graduated. So I think I was able to like leave school like in a week early to start working or something. They let me do it. But I started working for the Department of Defense at Northrop Grumman on some Air Force contracts. Did a couple of those.
That was your first job?
First job, yep. And that was like just a ASP.NET web app type position. So and we were learning ASP.NET at Rankin, so we just went straight into doing that. And then from there, a few more government contracts, and then flipped over to the private sector. I've worked at a few small mom and pop software company for like 4.5 years, and then a couple other larger companies. And then most recently, I was working at Express Scripts for about 3 years as their pharmacy automation engineer, working on software and also the machinery that automates prescriptions. That was a really cool place to learn and grow my skills.
So the most recent employer was Express Scripts.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that's an impressive resume.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm really excited to ask him some questions because when I think of some of my most successful alumni, this is definitely one that tops the charts. He's always been a great kind of guy to know, stayed in contact over the years, and so really, really great alumni. In fact, I remember you said you started in 2008.
Yeah.
I remember going to his high school in 2007.
Oh, yeah.
I remember meeting him in 2007. I went to the high school class, and in 2007, we were both younger, and what young people chase is money. And I remember going to his high school, really just talking about the opportunity, the financial opportunity of what's out there and what this industry can make.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up to me and he goes, this is a high school student. I don't even know the guy. He goes, I want to do that. How do I do that? you talk about those numbers. Those are the numbers I want to make.
Yeah.
And he was all about the money, or in a lot of ways about the money.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh boy, I hope, because I was a newer teacher and I hadn't had a lot of graduates that went off and made this super successful money. And so I was like, okay, Robert's coming to Rankin. He's really motivated to make some good money, so let's see what happens. Yeah. And he executed, right? So, and again, the Department of Defense, Express Scripts, private sector jobs, working for a small mom and pop shop. What did you like? I mean, talk about pros and cons between working for big corporate America and small mom and pop shop.
I guess starting just working for the government, and when you work for the government, you're going to notice there's tons of waste everywhere. Like so many people that really don't do anything, and it just gets old. That's why I got out of it, because you could literally get a job not doing anything, and it was stagnant and really lame.
Was the technology old?
Yeah, old technology, and you're handcuffed to what you can use by what's approved by the government, which is all old stuff and just not the best. I mean, there's some contracts that are better than others, especially if you get in on like the ground floor of like a brand new project. That's kind of different. But there's also some really cool stuff you can work on, like go work at Boeing and work on like an aerospace like job or something. That would be really cool. But the stuff I was kind of in, I mean, it was still really interesting and cool stuff. But basically, one job I got brought in as like I was just going to maintain it and fix issues. And it was just so old and crappy that I was like, guys, I'm just going to rewrite this. So I rewrote it from scratch in like 6 months. And then it was done. And it worked great. And they're still using it today. And I was like, okay, now what do I do? And they're like, well, you just sit there and wait for a break. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that. And then got a new job because I like to continually do things, not just sit and be bored every day. And then, so going from government to big corporate America, there's less waste, but there's still bureaucracy, and you're sometimes still handcuffed to do things their way versus what might be better. And then also just dealing with other people. So you've got to learn how to work as a team with other people. When the person above you might not be right, but you're the guy below them, you can battle it out and talk to him. But like most times, it's going to be what that person wants to do because he's above you, and you just got to do it. So you got to navigate, relationships with people, and yeah, that's always fun. That's part of the job for sure, is dealing with people and having a team. And then the small mom and pop thing, that was cool because it's kind of your own boss. Like you get handed a bunch of projects to work on and you manage them yourself. And like I directly dealt with the client myself. Juggled like 6 clients at a time. So you learn how to interact with people and clients, and then also I was doing estimating and actually getting clients to agree to doing work by myself. So that was a whole other thing that I learned how to do. Yeah, it was all really. I like that I did all 3.
All the whole
Yeah,
spectrum.
so did it all. So I got to kind of see what it was all like. I will say that I really, really loved working at Express Scripts. I would still be working there today if I didn't work for myself now. But yeah, it was a great.
So what were
really
some
smart
of,
people there.
whether it was Express Scripts or otherwise, what were some of the cooler projects, the cooler software that you wrote?
Yeah.
Like, what did you build that was just like, wow, that's cool?
Yeah, there's so many projects that I've worked on. It's hard. A really cool one was like when I was working at that small mom and pop shop. There was a security camera company that had security cameras that they built that they were selling in Best Buy and Walmart. And I was actually able to travel to China and work at the factory with the firmware developers there because they're under a really tight deadline to get the camera done. So I actually got to travel to China and work in China for a couple of weeks, which was really cool. Shenzhen. Mm-hmm. So Shenzhen is like the Silicon Valley of China. That's where like 90% of the world's electronics are made. So it was really cool experience. I'd hopefully get to go back at some point.
So you wrote the software for the security camera?
Yeah, we were doing the mobile app that actually interacted with the camera. So they needed help in getting the firmware set up for like the whole setup process of setting the camera up. So you use Bluetooth to set the Wi-Fi settings and all that stuff. I've done several like iOS and Android applications. So Clean Uniform uses an Android phone app to keep track of their inventory and stuff. Like I wrote that one myself, like completely by myself. They're using that. Worked on a social media app that kind of was a flop. That was fun.
I remember that vaguely.
Yeah,
It's a sport.
a ton of time spent in that, and it never actually went anywhere. But basically recreated Facebook. Like it's crazy.
Sports Facebook.
Yeah, pretty much. They were very ambitious. For the Department of Defense, basically anytime anyone in the military goes somewhere or moves somewhere, they get reimbursed for the travel. So I wrote the service that point-to-point distance to see how far that person went. There's like an official distance that the military will pay that person to travel. And then if they take Google Maps or Yahoo or Bing, they're going to pay what their official distance is, not what Google or Yahoo tells them. So what people were doing is they were finding the route that was the longest and submitting that to the government saying, this is how long it took to get, and they went like all the way around the United States instead of going the way they should have, right?
Yeah.
So that's why they came out with that. So I worked on that.
They probably hated you for
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't the popular guy there.
No, they didn't know I was the one building it.
Right.
Surface Deployment Distance Distribution Commands, SDDC.
And then the Express Scripts.
Express Scripts, yeah, that was really cool stuff. So, we wrote a web app. So a lot of their stuff there is what they call thick client. So like an EXE application. It's like a Windows-based application, and they're slowly going from that to web-based. Because web-based, it's just a computer. You can use it anywhere. You can use a tablet. and it's just a lot more versatile. And we wrote an application that is used for like actually packing out and shipping medications. And the first like 4 pharmacies that it went into are like what were called specialty pharmacies, which those are drugs that people need to live. So there's like cancer patients, like really serious medications that cost like $700,000 a prescription. And like that's our application that me and my team wrote, like handling all of that. So like,
So if you had a bug in your application, the life-saving medication might not end up on the doorstep.
Super scary.
Yeah.
And
Life and death. Life and
a
death.
lot of those medications have to be shipped with dry ice because the medication has to stay at certain temperature. So there's some really complex algorithms in there to say how long it's going to take to get there and what the temperature is going to be when it's there or when it's here, and then a chart to see how many bricks of ice do I have to add to this cooler to know the drugs are going to get to where they need to be at the correct temperature.
Did I tell you he was the man, or did I tell you he was the man?
I didn't write that. I used it. I didn't write it. Yeah, and then just at the pharmacies, there's a lot of automation. So there's robots with arms grabbing boxes, putting them places. I worked on what's called a bagger. So it's you load an order and then it prints a shipping label on a plastic bag and it comes down and these arms pull it open and then they put stuff in the bag and you take your hands and it steals the bag and it goes on a conveyor up to a mail sorter. So that was really cool to work on. I really like seeing the hardware with the software. So doing both sides and interacting with them is really cool. I really enjoy that. I think that's kind of where my business, which we can talk about that too, but I like seeing things created, whether it's on a computer screen or physically in front of me.
You're a maker.
I like creation, yeah.
You're a maker.
I love creation.
You like to make things.
And start from nothing and get something.
Yep. You're a maker. Talk about the learning curve that you experienced all throughout your career. Like where,
Basically, anytime you do anything, you're just going to get thrown into it and you just learn it. Like that's the way I learn. It's the best way I learn. Is just getting thrown into something and to sink or swim. You just do it, and never sink. Just do it. Right?
Doggy paddle.
Do what it takes to just do it. Everything that you're gonna learn here is just gonna be like your basics, right? You're gonna get your feet wet and stuff. But really, what it comes down to is just like I feel like the most important thing you can learn is the ability to teach yourself, regardless of.
It's one of my
whatever
favorite quotes.
it is.
It's one of my favorite movie quotes, by the way.
It's a movie quote.
One's primary purpose at university level is to, and I'm going to butcher it here, is to learn how to think.
Okay.
There it is. One's primary purpose at university level is to learn how to think.
Yeah. So, and then just being self-sufficient and finding the answers yourself too. So if you encounter a problem, just try and figure it out on your own. And it's always okay to ask for help, but being able to be self-sufficient and being able to teach yourself is, once you know those skills, you can literally do anything. And like I know you've heard it since you were a kid. Like you set your mind to it, you can do anything. Like literally, especially with programming, you can build anything. The entire world is run on code, and as a programmer, you can have keys to literally do anything.
So the learning curve throughout your entire career was a steep one.
Yeah,
you're always learning, and you're always learning a lot.
Well, yeah, and your knowledge just continues to compound, and you keep getting better and better and better. So you're obviously not going to get thrown into an entry-level engineering position and being expected to build a rocket ship, but in 10 years you might be able to do it. It's just you keep progressively learning, and you'll be around other people that know more than you to help you along the way too at almost every position, and that's also a huge part. The peers around you and who you surround yourself with help.
I've heard that called like the 1% rule, that you just every so often you're just trying to make yourself 1% better, 1% smarter. Anyways, you're continually learning and building and getting better. And those people who do that over the course of 10 years are up here. And then there's people who quit learning that are way down here.
Yeah.
And so don't be a person who quits learning. Just always work on a little bit at a time and continue getting better.
And another thing that I did is I kind of earlier, like when a job got stagnant, I didn't want to stay there. Like, so I'd hop jobs quite a few times. I mean, it's only 5 or 6 times in the past 11 years, so it's not crazy, but with job hopping also comes making more money. So I know a lot of people that got a job out of school and stayed there for 8 years, and they barely got any more money than what they started at. Whereas if you go to the next place, they're going to pay you more than the previous person, especially if you can talk the talk. I mean, that's 99% of an interview is just walking in and just talking to the person and making them feel comfortable about you. It doesn't really matter what you know at that point. But as long as you can just like talk eloquently with the person, really, I guess that's a good word to say it. You'll have technical interviews, but honestly, in the 11 years, I have not had a single technical interview. Just walk in and talk to the person, and then I mean, I've had a technical-ish interview where it wasn't like they gave me a code sample to do or anything. It's just I talked to an engineer and he just asked me questions like what's polymorphism and what's in it, how do you instantiate an object, and it's like trying to come up with those answers off the top of my head. I'm not good at it. I'm not a dictionary or a robot.
Well, at a certain
if I don't know
point-
the answer, I'm just going to Google it.
At a certain point, you can say, this is what I've built. These are the projects that of mine that were successful.
Yeah.
And when they can look at your resume like that, your portfolio, if you will,
Yeah.
and see the list of successful projects that you have,
Yeah.
you're hired. Please.
Mhm.
They beg you, please.
Yeah, for sure.
Work for us. We need you. We need
Yeah.
we need 1,000 of you.
Yeah.
Right?
And just demonstrating that you can take the initiative to do things on your own too.
And there's another, because I'm just piggybacking off of what you're saying here.
Yeah.
There's another important topic that when we were, younger in our, it was all about chasing the money. But at some point, it's not about the money. The research and the studies will show that after about 70K, money doesn't buy any sort of more happiness.
No.
And so you kind of reach a plateau of, okay, now what else is going to fulfill me in this job? And for a lot of people, once you're being paid well, what else fulfills you is, having a good purpose, a good mission. You're working for a company with a good mission. And what he said, being mentally stimulated and challenged, right? Because if I'm just sitting there and I'm bored, no, I'm done. I'm peace out,
Yeah.
I quit. I'll go find something that can, number one, I can work for a good purpose. And number two, it's challenging.
Yeah. Continually to grow yourself.
Because you will, have the opportunity to sit there and be unproductive in certain jobs.
Well, there's definitely jobs out there where you can do nothing, and it's perfectly fine.
So let's talk generically about trajectory of salaries.
Yeah.
What would you say about that?
Yeah, I'll just say the first job I had right out of school was like $40,000 a year, and then
10 years
from
ago.
there, and then from there, from 40 to 65 to 77 to 95 to 120 to 145, like that was like the salary trajectory that I was on. So
Anything over 70, and he just he just gave you a number that was double that, right? So
yeah.
So for those of people who are still just chasing money, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You're in the right spot.
Yeah, I definitely like information technology in general. Like that's where the money is. Like Netflix, all of their engineers make a minimum of $450,000 a year. They only hire senior developers. There's no juniors, or everyone is on the same level, and they all make over $450,000 a year. Like, you've got to be a really good developer to work there, but I mean that's just like an example of how much our skills are worth to companies, because we automate, we make processes simpler, which means they need less people to do their job, to do things, and that to a company is worth so much money, and it always will be. So that's programming is always going to be here until we program ourselves out of a job, which who knows,
Well, they now have software that you can give some baseline requirements, and it will attempt to, like with AI and machine learning, it will attempt to solve the problem. And It's not here, but
Yeah.
they're trying.
Yeah, they're trying.
They're trying.
I don't know if that'll ever happen.
I got my eyes on all my students' code. I'm like, okay, did they write this or was this?
Slaughter generated. Yeah. Oh gosh, that's funny.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We got our eyes on it.
Well, I'm sure the resources available to these guys. I mean, I had Stack Overflow 11 years ago, but it's even better now. Like, there's probably so much more examples and stuff to go off of. And over 11 years, like, it's probably. I mean, anytime I've ever had a problem that I needed a solution for at work, it's been online. Everything, someone's already done it, you know. And if someone hasn't already done it, then you're a freaking top paid engineer somewhere like Google or something, doing something for the first time, making a ton of money to do it.
Or like SpaceX or landing rockets and,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of journey.
Yeah.
This is awesome. This is going well.
Good. I'm not crashing and burning.
You're not crashing.
So I guess I can go into like now I work for myself.
Please.
So about 4.5 years ago, I found a website. So I really like graphic design too. So I like creating graphics, and I also like money. So I saw there was a website called teespring.com where you could like upload a design to a shirt, and then you get a link, and anyone buys it, you make a couple bucks, and you don't have to do anything other than create the design and put the link places for people to buy it. So I went on Facebook, and there's like all these groups for people that like. I also like cars a lot. So there'll be a Ford Mustang group with like 70,000 people in it that all like Mustangs. So if you go make a Mustang shirt and post the link to that group, like 200 people are going to buy it. So like I did this for a month, and I made like $3,000 just uploading random designs to t-shirts. And I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. I'm like, well, you know what? Car people really like hats. So I'm like, all right, I want to make some hats. And I'm like Googling, and there's no websites that do custom embroidered hats with stuff on them, right? They didn't exist. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to make a site. So I set up a website, lidlaunch.com. The original concept was just that. Graphic designers would upload designs to hats, and for every hat that sold, I would embroider it and ship it to the person that bought it, and that person would make $5 per sale. We started as that 4.5 years ago. I was outsourcing everything to my friend's mom, who has an embroidery shop in St. Louis.
Zoran?
Yep. Yeah, Zoran, yeah, another Rankin alumni. And then from there, I bought an embroidery machine where I was like, well, I can cut out her, and I can make them myself. And then from there, I've just continually grown it. We kind of pivoted to selling hats to like small businesses across the United States. But over the past year, it's gone from me in my basement to now I have 12 employees. We're moving into 8,400 square foot like warehouse space this month. Hopefully, we're still working on building it out. We've sold over 120,000 hats. We'll close out, this year hopefully $2 million in sales plus. So like 3 months ago, I quit my job as a software engineer, and now I am a business owner complete. Because before that, I was doing both. I was a software engineer by day and making hats at night till 4 in the morning for like the past 4 years. And finally, I made the jump. I work for myself now. And it's crazy. If you would ask me 5 years ago if I would have quit my job as a software engineer to be running a business making hats, I would have told you you're crazy, but here we are.
Here we are. So, and you built some software around this, right?
Yeah. So everything that my website, the systems we use to process everything, I wrote myself. So we have tons of embroidery equipment at my office now that we run. We run from 7 a.m. till midnight every day, and every machine has a computer on it, and we have the entire order management system I've written. So anything to make automated, easier to use, or less people to do it, I'm putting it in place. So I'm still a software engineer, and that's what I do, and that's what I do best. But now I'm also in charge of HR. I'm doing payroll. I'm doing bookkeeping. I'm doing all of that. And the bigger we get, the more people bring in and help with that. But this is a completely next level up from being what I was before, because I'm learning so much more about money and how much of it's actually out there. And like he was kind of saying, it doesn't matter. You get to a point where it's like you make so much, and then there's just more, and it's like, what do you want to do with that more? Like for me, like my mom works for me now, my sister-in-law works for me now, so I'm in charge of like my family's well-being at this point, and 10 other people that rely on me to make a living. So I actually hired a guy last week, and he sent me a friend request on Facebook. I haven't accepted yet. It's kind of, I don't know what to do with that one yet. But I saw that he had already started working at Lid Launch on his profile, and seeing that, and seeing all of like the likes and comments and stuff, and people like, oh my God, congratulations! Like, it set in with me, like, holy crap, this kid is excited to come work for something that I built, and now I'm like paying this kid, like his whole well-being is like on my shoulders. Like, it's completely different, next level stuff once you get into it. Super stressful, like.
And doing some like yoga or something to get rid of that stress.
Yeah, you gotta do something. But it's always like leveling up, right? Going to the next step, next step, and I don't know. I was never. I don't want to say it, but no, I wasn't a good student. I hated school. When he came to my high school and said, "Hey, it's a 2-year program and you're done," I'm like, "All right, sign me up. I don't want to go to school." I'm sitting there sleeping in class, and I didn't like school. So for me, it was like get in, get out, get a job, start working. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't even want to go to school. But the coming here actually helped me because they're very strict on time and all that stuff. I'm terrible with time. Always have been. But it forced me to get better at it, which did get me ready for going into the workforce.
Do you remember that time your mom wrote a note to me?
Oh, that's
to excuse your absence?
Super. Yeah. That was a good one.
You remember that?
Did it work? I don't remember.
Well, you graduated. So
I don't think it
must
worked.
have-
My mom wrote a note.
Your mom wrote a
Sorry,
note.
my son's late to school.
Yep. I remember that.
My alarm would be going off every morning, and she would yell at me to wake up. Like, I've never been good with time.
But you
yeah.
were a good student here. You really were. You excelled in so many ways. You really
Appreciate
were.
it.
You really were. I mean, if I could keep you awake, you were,
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
a darn good student.
Yeah, staying up all night playing World of Warcraft. That'd be great.
All right, we are running low on time, but we still have time for questions from the audience. Yes.
Are you wearing one of your hats?
Yeah, this is one. So
The question was, are you wearing one of your hats? And the answer is yes. He's
Of
got
course,
the
yeah,
that's
the
the
rocket.
logo.
Yeah.
That's the again. It's lidlaunch.com,
Yeah.
right? Lidlaunch.com.
that is the website.
Well, you were talking about like your salary trajectory.
Yeah.
And how long did it take to get from 40 to 140?
9 years. Yeah.
Just what?
I was above 6 figures for after the first 5 years, though.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of
5 years to 6 figures, and then up from there.
so.
What are you supposed to keep going on at school when you feel like going?
Just knowing that it was going to be over, and I was learning things, and like I enjoy being around people and stuff, and I did have some friends here too with me, which helped. We were a really small class though.
Yeah.
I think there was like 7 of us, and we were one of the first. So I think we were like the second class for internet and web-based technology.
Yeah.
But just knowing that when I was done, I had the degree and the rank and name behind me, which everyone always like talked about, and like it actually did help get a job.
Was your grades all good or was
Oh no, I scraped by, grades wise.
I
Yeah,
agree on that one.
yeah. C. Hey, I don't want to say it, but C's get degrees, right? So as long as you're learning,
Wouldn't
sorry.
be the first time or
Sorry.
last time it's ever been said.
Sorry.
I can't fight. I can't fight the movement. That's the movement. Sometimes.
Yeah, but as long as you're learning, and the thing was, it's like, yeah, I may have gotten a D on that test, but I was working on something else on the side, building my skills along the way too. Like maybe I wasn't interested in learning the IP subnetting, right? So yeah, I didn't do good on a test, but I was still working on other programming things on the side to increase my knowledge. So just take the time here and use it as best as you can, and just pass. Just get through it, man, and get the name, and then learn and just find what you like to do and just keep doing that.
And I'm just going to add on to that because I've had many success stories who did not pass the first time but did not quit.
Yeah.
Because when you hit a bump in the road, a bump being it's something not going to plan, like passing a class, you got two options. You can pick it back up and try again, or you can quit. And I've seen students go both ways, and there's certainly a lot of success stories of people who didn't pass the first time through. And they were ultimately successful in this industry. Zach, you had a question?
Yeah, in the beginning, how did you look for jobs?
11 years ago, it was like monster.com, jobs.com. That's where it was. It's a lot different now, probably. I mean, once you get your first couple of years of experience, people will call you and text you and email you like every freaking day. You'll get job offers every day. Well, not every day, but at least every month. Like, people will be constantly reaching out to you. Like, just 3 weeks ago, a recruiter from Facebook messaged me on LinkedIn and asked me if I wanted to work from home for Facebook. Like, you just get LinkedIn is where people will find you most with the experience.
Did you ever plan on starting your own business, or did it just?
No, it just happened. And so my family, my mom has run a restaurant for 18 years, her sister and my grandma in Highland, Illinois. So, and my uncle owns several restaurants. So we've always been around that, and I've kind of been around my uncle a lot. And so that we've got like the entrepreneurial stuff in the family. But we all grew up together in that same restaurant, me and all my cousins working together. So working with family and at our own business was really cool. But no, I didn't think that I would be. I always thought that, so my plan in starting the side thing for the hats was like, all right, cool, I'm going to sell a bunch of hats and I'm going to buy a Lamborghini using money just from hats. Like, that was my thing. Like, I love cars. Like, that's what I wanted to do. Like, just side money type thing. And then it turned from just side money to I got a part-time employee. I'm like, oh, he can do running the machines for me, and then I can just keep bringing business in. And you bring more business in, and then you hire more people, and then it completely evolves into more than just money. It's like, holy crap, I have all these people, I have all these customers. This is a real thing now. And then with that, yes, more money comes in eventually. I mean, I've completely reinvested almost everything that I've made. I still pay myself a salary, but all profits have been reinvested in growing the business even bigger and bigger and bigger. So there'll be at some point where it's really big, just running and chugging itself. Like right now, I'm not there right now. I have people that work for me that are basically running it for me. I still do a lot, but the stuff I'm doing now I would never thought that I would need to be doing. You know, talking to lawyers, like payroll. Like,
when you get your Lamborghini,
taxes.
can you come pick up your old teacher sometime for
We'll do.
lunch?
We'll do.
It's
still in the plans.
I wanted to see you pull through those front gates in a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
What color?
White.
Okay, and then pick
Of
me
course.
up, and we'll just roll out the front
It'll
gates
be
together.
totally
Okay.
So that was like when I was a kid, I always wanted a Lamborghini Gallardo. Like, it's what I wanted, and I've always been obsessed with cars. Like, my financial motivations has always been cars, which is stupid. I'll be the first to admit it. Like, you don't want to make money just to buy a car, but that's what I wanted to do. Like, my parents co-signed a loan when I was 16 so I could buy a Cobalt SS in 2007 because I love cars. Like, I've always had a car payment. Like, I like cars. I don't care. I'll pay it, you know? So that was my goal. Like, before I was 30, I'm 31 now. Like, I wanted to have a Lamborghini so bad. Like, I still want one, but like, I have other ambitions now before that, you know? Like, I would rather buy 2 more commercial embroidery machines to make more hats, to bring more money in and have more employees than a Lamborghini right now. So kind of, I've grown up a little bit, but I definitely still want it, you know. So, but having motivations,
delayed gratification is
yeah,
a sign of maturity.
yeah.
Delayed gratification is a sign of maturity. Jake, you had a question? Or did you?
No.
Okay.
Anyone else?
You're awesome.
Thanks.
You're really awesome. I can't wait to be picked up in a Lamborghini.
So are you.
I'm just a guy.
I'm just.
All right.
What kind of car do you drive now, by the way?
I have a Tesla Model X and a Model 3.
Just a Tesla.
There you go. Yeah,
Just 2 Teslas.
What's
The
up?
student, the Padawan becomes the master in like 6 months after graduation.